Hello, this is Nikushin, and completely without external influence, I decided that I need more shulker boxes. Hence, a shulker farm it is. I designed that farm by myself, but to say that I invented it would be a bit of an exaggeration, since it's heavily influenced by the design ending credits and his friends came up with. His latest design is even quite a bit faster than my own, but it's always a bit of a balancing act between good efficiency and low complexity. But if you want to go the full route, then please check him out. It is advisable to only build farms that you can comprehend. And in that regards, I won't go too deep, but I'll at least explain some of the mechanics that this farm is built upon. As this is a survival series, I don't want to go too deep into tutorial terrain, but sometimes, and I think today is one of these times, I just can't help myself. So let's jump right into our dream world in which I can visualize the stuff I'm thinking about. When a shulker gets hit by a shulker bullet, and it does not matter if it is its own bullet, then it has a 100% chance to start a duplication attempt by teleporting away and leaving behind a new shulker. That 100% gets reduced by 20% for each additional shulker in the vicinity of 8 blocks in every direction. That's a 17 by 17 cube with the shulker in its center. That means when there are 6 shulkers in the area, then no new shulkers will spawn. Also, the shulker's lid has to be open, so when the shulker is closed, it also would not duplicate. Well, the 100% may still sound nice, but we are still talking about the probability to start a duplication attempt. It goes as follows. The shulker selects a random block in the already familiar 17 by 17 cubic area. If the block is a valid teleportation target, then the shulker teleports to said block and leaves a new shulker behind. If the target is not valid, then the shulker simply does not teleport there, and the block gets discarded. The shulker does that 4 more times, which sums up to a total of 5 teleporting attempts. When all 5 of that teleporting attempts fail, then the whole duplication process fails and nothing happens. Except that the shulker gets damaged, but yeah. Let us pretend that the purple glass is a block that got selected by a shulker while teleporting, and see if the shulker identifies that spot as a valid target. While the first spot was just fine, this one is not valid because the shulker would be unable to open its lid while it's sitting there. That changes again if we have a block here on the side, because the shulker can easily change its direction so it's comfortable again. Well, this is true also if the 2 blocks here wouldn't be there. And also sideways they want to open their lid and don't like to be obstructed. Well, soul sand on the other hand is not a full block on the top, so also a problem for the shulker. You may think now, okay, it's just the top, isn't it? Well, actually it's not fine to sit on the side of a soul sand block either. And on the bottom, well, weirdly enough, that works. So, actually, for a shulker there is no difference between a soul sand block and a bottom half slab. But while there is no difference for the shulker, there is one major one for us. And that is that you can transfer redstone power to a soul sand block, which makes it quite good for redstone contraptions within a shulker farm. You can also use normal blocks and try to teleport proof them, but that is quite prone to errors. Now scaffolding, yeah, it can sit there, but about teleporting, it may sound weird, but it's a matter of the perspective. See, if you stand below a scaffolding and you throw an ender pearl at it, it faces through. But now if you stand on top of the scaffolding, because you teleported there and you want to ender pearl back down, you can't, because the scaffolding surface is now solid. But Nikushin, shulkers don't throw projectiles to teleport somewhere, so why would they care about that? Yeah, that's the thing. They do care. The destination block is picked randomly, regardless of any blocks in between, yes. But if the shulker is positioned below the scaffolding, it sees the surface as non-solid, just as we did before, so it won't teleport there. The shulkers that are positioned above the scaffolding, on the other hand, are like, is this solid? Let me check. Yes, seems solid. Whoop. And now hear me out, because I think what comes next is hilarious. If you place some slabs here above the air block that is above the scaffolding, the top shulkers won't teleport there anymore, because they see this place now like this. But the bottom shulkers finally have a solid side in form of that half slab to sit at and happily teleport there. For them, the scaffolding has no collision, so they think they can open their lid without any obstruction. Now remember when I said that the top shulkers wouldn't like that space, since they would be sandwiched between two solid surfaces? The shulkers that we named the bottom shulkers now are also at the top, and they also dislike this place. And they will try everything to teleport somewhere else, and that also includes the same configuration, just a couple of blocks placed above them. You can basically force shulkers to teleport up, and also down, but that is limited to one block at a time, because only shulkers on the same height as the scaffolding would teleport to the underside of a scaffolding block, which then means they would teleport downwards. Why do they do that? Honestly, I don't know. Don't worry about that thing behind me. That farm here is only a proof of concept for me. The final one in my survival world will look less shabby. But we can use this now to show some things we just learned in praxis. To anger the shulker and make them shoot shulker bullets, we have a couple of snow golems that hit the shulker with snowballs. The shulker cannot shoot back because the trapdoor is obstructing its bullet path, which instead flies into the opposite direction, turns, and then tries to navigate back to the golems. The shulker is in the way though and gets hit instead. This starts the duplication attempt, and to raise the probability of succeeding that, we want to have as many valid teleportation targets around the shulker as possible. We also want the shulkers to leave the area as fast as possible so that they will not lower the chance for future duplications. We do this by having these scaffolding layers above each other. The most important ones are the ones that are within the 8-block teleport radius for the shulker. We try to maximize that by having the first layer of scaffolding at the same height as the shulker, so the shulker can teleport either above or below the scaffolding. Future Nikushin here, who have already built that farm in survival and found a major flaw in my thinking. I thought that the shulker could choose between the upper or the lower part of the scaffolding, but it actually cannot. The shulker will always first teleport below the scaffolding and then above. Except if you have a supporting block below the scaffolding, then it can teleport above the scaffolding immediately. But if there is another block below the scaffolding, then it would obstruct the shulker, so it couldn't teleport below. It could only teleport above, so in both cases you only have one space for teleporting, not both. But you can fix this by placing a second layer of scaffolding above the first one. That would raise the whole farm by one block, but that still wouldn't change the amount of layers you could have within the 8-block radius from the shulker, because there was one excess block anyways. For me it's too late. The farm is already built in survival and I won't change anything about that anymore. Though for me and my single player world the raids are already good enough and I don't know how much better it would become with a second layer. But you can try. However, no matter how good your farm is, no matter how many spawning spaces you have, your shulker inside the breeding cell will eventually die, or teleport away without duplicating. And in that case, you need a system that detects that and requests for a new shulker. In this case, this is done with the help of a Skyke sensor, which detects the shooting, the opening and closing, and other things that the shulker does. And while it does that, it keeps that pulse extender alive, and when that pulse extender dies down, so when the redstone turns off, the dispenser will be triggered, the minecart gets shut out, travels up the bubble elevator, and gets a new shulker from the shulker backup. The shulker backup has two special spaces which monitors if there is a shulker inside, and if it's not, if either one or both of them are missing, the trapdoors will be pulled up and therefore cannot be used anymore as stepping stones for getting to the layer above here. The shulkers here below are now searching for teleportable spaces, but only the ones on the backup cells are available, so they wait until one of them finds these and fills them up. Oh boy. Oh god, I think I overslept. That dream took way too long. So, for the farm we need a little bit of this, some of this. Well, maybe I bought too much scaffolding. It could be that you have already recognized some of these materials. They come from the B-roll material shown in the beginning. Oh, and about the wither roses, there was a new farm design by IronXR4 that I used. I won't go into too much detail. No, really, not again. Just watch this video. But to quickly sum it up, you just have to place snow blocks and dispensers automatically place the pumpkins to summon golems and then immediately shear them off again. Did you know that you can heal the wither by making it kill mobs? Well, I didn't. I think I might even add a little extra challenge for me, so when I have to bring a shulker into the overworld, I will try to keep my wither alive while doing so. If I fail, then I just have lost to my own challenge, and if I succeed, well, I can keep my little pet wither alive a little longer. Speaking of shulker to overworld shenanigans, you can skip that step by building that exact same farm directly in the end dimension. In fact, the farm even works in the nether, with just very minor adjustments. Though I have already decided on a nice spot here in the overworld, that meadow hill here, so I cannot get around the shulker transportation task. The first thing one should do on a big project like that is to check if the chosen spot is more or less decently looking on a map. The farm will probably look like a grey box from above, but caution is better than leniency, especially since you cannot change any of the map positioning later on. And now please explain to me why I have 2 green arrows on the map. This annoys me a little bit, honestly. Placing the first block is always the hardest, since you have to decide which of the blocks should be the first one. We will start with the holding cell for the snow golems. That would be a stone slab surrounded by a glass box. When it comes to pumpkins, I'm quite stingy with them. I don't have a real farm yet, and as long as I can get them back without any technical influence, then I don't even think twice and do so. A small difference in comparison to the farm that you saw in my creative world, we will have a little dent here in the glass. That is a place at which lava will flow down eventually. Don't forget to place that button here on top of that L shape to teleport-proof that spot. The shulker, by the way, will then eventually sit in the corner of that L. We can now surround this glass box with a couple of slabs. These will be the supporting blocks for the scaffolding. Spoiler alert, you need to place 4 more slabs on the corner of this layer, but that then should be enough to cover the whole layer with scaffolding, and still having a lot of scaffolding blocks that has free teleportation space underneath them. A redstone block with an activator rail on top will be the mechanic to eject the shulker into its cell later on. Don't worry about obstructing the shulker, because rails are a non-solid, or better to say, non-collision, so the shulker will have no problem opening its lid into them. 2 solid blocks powered with levers will power the rails that are behind them. I also place an additional activator rail here. Shouldn't be necessary, but if there is a shulker still in the minecart at that spot, then it would be ejected there. We can then place some lava here. The lava will destroy every shulker bullet that tries to fly through it, while the snowballs can pass through easily. We can then place the first layer of scaffolding, counting 8 blocks in every direction starting from the corner of that said L shape. As already mentioned, the scaffolding won't make it to the corners without further support, so 4 more slabs it is. When we have our first layer done, we can finish the rail track by replacing this to scaffolding with hoppers, curve the rail into the cauldron filled with lava and chain down a series of hoppers and droppers from that middle hopper down, ending that whole thing with a downwards facing hopper. We only accept one item at a time to go through here, so we can get around building some sophisticated redstone that repeatedly powers the dropper while it holds items. Instead, we just hook the comparator directly up to the dropper. A powdered snow block beneath that dropper will take out some momentum of the item that is dropped, and therefore dampens the randomness, making it more reliable. I'm halfway through this video and it feels like I'm skipping too much for a full-fledged tutorial while not skipping enough for an entertaining Let's Play video. So, who am I making this video for? Anyways, don't forget to teleport-proof everything that's important. If you have checked all the places, all the nooks and crannies of your farm for teleportable spaces, then you can check again because you probably forgot something. Then you can start building the other layers of the farm. So a layer of solid blocks and then a layer of scaffolding on top. And after repeating that 4 more times with an air block in between, you can build a bottom half slab roof, again with 1 air block above the scaffolding. And don't forget to teleport proof the newly created spaces at the breeding cell, including this sneaky space here. Instead of a button, I fill that one place with a soul sand block. Don't know if it makes any difference, but the shulker is sitting there, and like that it's more enclosed. Now on the top we need 4 lanes of full blocks. You can either replace the slabs or just add more slabs of the same type to create full blocks. They begin with the 4 block gap from the edges. There on top, more scaffolding will be needed, followed by a strip of additional blocks in between with bottom trapdoors attached to them. The top will be teleport-proofed by redstone dust, but don't forget the bottom. 3 more blocks high up, we can build a foundation of the backup cells by connecting some pressure plates to 2 independent pulse extenders. One mistake on my end, I'll add some soul sand blocks to the extender so I can add redstone torches there. And again, don't forget to teleport proof the bottom of the soul sand blocks. The lane on the back needs to be connected a little bit different, but it's not too much of a hassle if you try to connect the redstone from the side here with some slabs again maybe. There are probably a lot of possibilities to connect it, but this is my solution. Back at the breeding cell, we'll add a skulk sensor right here and hook it up to another pulse extender. I'll add a little system here that disables itself as soon as there is a minecart crossing that detector rail, and that is an observer clock that repeatedly triggers a node block to keep the skulk sensor busy. We use some teleport-proof blocks, chains for example, to push the observer from a greater distance, so we don't have to teleport-proof everything from here on. So, when the observer clock is ticking and the node block is playing, a minecart rolling over this detector rail would stop the clock from ticking. And the T flip-flop is in the wrong position, so let's reset that one quickly. Also, the node block starts to be a little annoying, so I'll just use the leather here, add it to the pulse extender, and that disables it quite easily. Actually, that can be used as an on-off switch later on. Now, here will be a water elevator that sets up a minecart, but for that I'll move that piston 1 block in, so I can add another block and power the piston indirectly. With that I can now also place a dispenser on the other side of that block and it too will be powered when the extender turns off. The powered rails here are powered with an active lever underneath the soul sand blocks, and with that we can finally build a bubble elevator. That will be built right next to another glass tube, which is for the minecart falling down again after collecting a shulker. Also don't forget to teleport proof the observer blocks. We can then connect our glass tower with the backup chamber. That means we just have to pillar up until we are at the same height as our backup chamber, and then we bridge over there. You can also already start placing some powered rails and power them from underneath. I omitted that part pretty much here. The bubble elevator will end at the scaffolding block having a powered rail on top. It can phase through it, snaps at a rail and starts rolling, which is exactly what we need. We used the good old kelp trick to create water sources from the bottom of the soul sand onwards, and then we can already start testing. So, when the dispenser is powered, the minecart gets ejected right into the bubble elevator, goes up and gets a new shulker. And then afterwards it falls down onto the track here. This needs to be a full block. And then it brings the new shulker to the breeding cell. Then the minecart gets destroyed by the lava cauldron and gets ejected at the bottom of the breeder in item form. What's left is to complete the cycle by adding a waterway that flushes the minecart item back into the system. So we need one more water elevator that goes into a hopper, supplying our dispenser with minecarts again. Time to connect that yet to become waterway to our yet to become water elevator. Yeah, also completely necessary in this tutorial, you need to flush the stuff that is below your farm. So you actually just forget to place the scaffolding block here, and all the torches you placed down there are gone by now. This obviously is a step you must not skip. For the walls that holds the water in place, I like chains, since you don't have to teleport proof them any further. I mean, just look at the ice here, and all the places that you need to teleport proof. So a golden rule I set for myself is that if you don't have to use full blocks, then you probably shouldn't. And let's just see. Yep, looks good for me. Now what's left is the killing chamber. For that we go 8 blocks up from the top of the scaffolding lanes, 9 blocks if you include the air block above the scaffolding. We then build one last small 4x8 platform 3 blocks below our 9 block tower here. That makes it that the shulkers that teleported to the trapdoors can barely reach that layer, but the shulkers that are below cannot. The actual killing chamber is just a strip of 8 blocks of soul sand with some wither roses on top, surrounded by a line of hoppers that catches the shulker shells. Counting including the air block above the slab layer, you can build that strip of soul sand 6 blocks above, but you can actually also just put it directly above the slabs. I used the scaffoldings as helper blocks for placing the trapdoors here. You can also use other helper blocks. You can actually completely change the trapdoors to full blocks, but again, you would have to teleport proof them accordingly, so that the shulkers can only teleport to the side that is directed to the wither roses. Wanna make it that the farm looks extra cool and actually better contains the stray shulker bullets? Then place a couple of glass panes around the whole tower thing. And not to forget, we need a little bit of storage here, in form of a chest that can contain the acquired shulker shells. Honestly, I will change that up later on, but for now, I'll stick with that. Okay, anything else? Am I done? No, of course not. I still need a shulker, an actual shulker, not an imaginary one. Okay, the plan is quite simple. We just chuck down an invis potion and then we sneak up on the shulker. Literally, sneak up, because the Invis potion doesn't actually make you invisible to mobs. It just lowers the radius that mobs, and in this case Shulkers, can become aware of you. And you know what also lowers that radius? Yeah, sneaking. After some preparation that I made in the overworld, that I will go in detail later on, I went to the end city of my choice that has an end gateway very close nearby and connected them both with a rail track. With the Shulker here now on the end island, I just need to look a little bit up in the wiki, and that is how to get the Shulker into the portal. Just driving the minecart in does not work. Oh yeah, there it is. Moving Shulkers to the overworld. If a minecart next to the Shulker, right a minecart. Yeah, sure. Wait, they want me to teleport proof every block around the... Why? Good, the next step is to forget everything we just saw in this wiki, and instead we do it my way. And that is that we have an activator rail here, and we case that one with full blocks, so if the activator rail ejects a mob, namely our Shulker, then it will sit in the corner here above the bedrock. The piston will push the Shulker one block directly above the portal, and because there is only one side that the Shulker can sit at, and that is at the block above, the Shulker will rotate itself upside down. And as soon as we step close to it, it will open its lid completely to shoot at us, and then the Shulker touches the portal block and teleports to the overworld. Sadly, I'm invisible in this clip, so just pretend that this I am here text is the current position of myself. And as already mentioned, the Shulker teleports to the overworld, at which I already prepared a little rocket that shoots the Shulker up to world height. You can also try to get the Shulker through the nether, but honestly, flying machines are much more simple in my opinion. And at world height, there shouldn't be anything that obstruct you. So, with one single button press... Yeah, oh, the one observer is now connected to the slime above. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, yeah, okay, enough. We need two more flying machines. One flying machine that brings us to the correct X position, and the other one that brings us to the correct Z position. Or Z position? Well, English is hard. Now that I have dismantled the first flying machine, the new flying machine for the correct Z position is now done. Previous flying machine for the X coordinate had its cockpit below the machine. I made it so that no phantoms could spawn on me. That new one with its cockpit above doesn't have that feature, but after I ridiculously failed at starting the first flying machine and then entering it, I wanted to go the safe route. The question that remains is if I can get the Shulker now out of that flying machine head, and preferably without it noticing me. And going even further, getting the Shulker down from here without it dying. The rails here line up perfectly with the glass tube that is above for the backup Shulkers anyways, so the fall shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, that sounds quite good. Yeah? Oh yeah. I've let that farm run now for several hours. I was quite good. I haven't forgotten any teleportable spaces. If you have, well, it's unavoidable normally. The only difference between you and me is probably that I have built that farm quite a lot of times in creative by now. Not that finished product here. You saw my shamble that I made just before. Yeah, the farm now would be finished, but if I make a big farm like that, and I consider that one quite big, honestly, then I want to have it a little bit more special, with a little bit of Nikushin spice, you know what I mean? Probably not, no. Okay. For starters, I encased the backup cells with some more glass panes. Probably something that I should have done beforehand, because with all the Shulkers that were in there, that was not that easy to do. I've also added an additional rail if I ever want to have a Shulker out of that farm for any other purposes, then I can use it for extracting exactly one Shulker out of the backup cells. The chest on top, like already mentioned, got replaced by a dropper that now drops the shulker shells down into that pool of water that funnels it together and processes it even further. Think that was all? Hahaha, now we are just starting. There's a little map art that shows the current status of the breeding cell. If the shulker on the map art is crossed out, then the shulker died and the backup is already on the way. And if it's not, then the shulker is alive and duplicates. Do you see the line above the map art? Yeah, that is the amount of shulker shells that I have gotten within the last minute. They are locked inside the display for the following minute, but after that they get released and get flushed here further down to my, well, this will be the AFK spot. Right now there is only a shulker loader here, but eventually that might become a running gag now. I will try to build something nice here, maybe, I hope. Honestly, these things are completely unnecessary, but I like this kind of stuff. If you also like these little additions and you have questions about these, well, I brushed over them quite quickly because I'm already at overtime, so sorry. Tell me in the comments if you really want to have an additional shulker farm video, else I have enough other projects I want to cover in the little time I have, so if you have questions then you know what to do. Oh boy, what an episode, I did it again. I made a tutorial. Well, maybe not even a good one. I think my English might be bad enough that the majority of people who watch this don't even understand what I try to convey. Okay, probably one reason more to step down in the future a little, at least from the complicated stuff. Not even talking about pacing of conveying information and the structure itself. But I did what I could. And if it wasn't enough, I guess there should be enough other YouTubers who can fill in the gaps. Ending credits, for example, like I already said, most of the stuff you saw here is inspired from his videos. Anyways, that's all from me. I wish you all a fantastic day and see you soon, I guess. Bye!